What up, cuz? I am recording in the light of day. Can you believe it? We're here for our Totally Tuesday Oracle Manifestation reading, where we check in on every Tuesday to see where we're at with our manifestations and what we need to know to expand into our potential and maybe pitfalls we need to be aware of to steer clear of. We've got a lot of jumpy little mermaids and dolphins already, so I'm just gonna flip those over so we can just get them all out, and then we'll take a look. Ooh, okay. Wonderful. Okay. Oh, I think that this is a theme this week. I've had a lot of cards come up just about, they give me the impression that it's about tempering, sort of pumping the brakes maybe, waiting, having patience, just like taking it easy, not thinking that everything has to be like done right away or all at once, or, you know, any sense of like, it's like some sense of urgency is good, but like don't feel like the weight of anxiety, of urgency. Just relax. And the first card is wait. And I love this card because it reminds me of myself. Just being a monster. But I love this. She's like sitting on her little couch, her little mermaid couch, and she's fairly content. You know, she's kind of like wanting something to happen, or wanting to, you know, maybe like feel like she's getting, you know, evidence of success. I know that when you work on something for a long time, you know, you want to see growth. And sometimes it's just the rhythms of life that we have to wait for things to mature. There's certain things that I planted in my garden this year that I really wanted to be fruitful. And every season is different. But some plants you put in and they are perennials. And so they come back permanently. But it takes them a while to mature and to really like take root and to be able to be fruitful. So it takes patience. So don't rush into action right now. Bide your time for better results. So yeah, if there's something that you're like feeling angsty or antsy about, it's not a good time to just push forward. Bide your time. Things like parts and pieces are moving behind the scenes. And things are shifting, and the alchemy card has come up in this reading. And so there's things that are still probably condensing and coagulating, right? And so you just can't rush that process. So I think it's in A Course of Miracles, there's a passage that says, those who have faith can afford to wait and wait patiently. Or those with certainty can afford, or those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and wait patiently without anxiety, I think is what it is. And so that really speaks to the concept in Kabbalah of certainty. Uncertainty is not knowing the outcome. It's not having any guarantees, but it's being able to trust the creator and source rather than the vessels that we place the illusion upon, right? In my industry, like I used to be in TV, film, and video production. So at any given time of year, there were lulls and there were busy times, and it was very difficult to get through the uncertainty of the lulls. And I had to learn that it wasn't the gig that was my source. It wasn't even my own efforts that got me those gigs. I mean, it was to a certain extent. I had to show up. I had to build the vessel. I had to put my resume out there and like keep up with my, you know, profile sites and apply for gigs. But honestly, you know, when I got that momentum going, there were so many people that reached out to me for jobs that I never even applied to. The moment that I shifted into the certainty that it wasn't the vessel, it wasn't the job, it wasn't the gig. Source was the source of my money. Source is my PR person. Source is my way into the algorithm, you know. Source is like even in the restaurant industry, there are times where things fluctuate, right? And it gets people on staff, they get into a group mindset of angst and worry and scarcity. And, people react to that. And so what they find is that it doesn't matter what restaurant I've ever worked at. It's always the same complaints and the same problems and the same cycles of problems. And so what I've learned is that universally speaking, my brand of issues is going to be with me no matter where I am. If I try to run, those little things are just gonna follow me there. And so yes, there are times where we have to be led and guided away from certain places and to other places, but that's not always the case. Sometimes it's about sitting and facing yourself where you are, and then the conditions can shift around you. But it has to do with what you really desire, right? Is your heart in it or not? So everybody, the answer is different. So it's really nuanced, and it's nuanced every time. And it may not be the same answer all the time for the same question, right? Like things can be right for periods of time, and then they can come to a completion, and it can get you, from one bridge. It can be like a bridge, right? To get you from one point to another. So yeah, there is a power in being able to sit in stillness and uncertainty, because you can anchor in past those choppy surface waters and the changing conditions and the winds of change. And you can tune into that inner guidance from the higher self from a peaceful place, and think of, tune into how you feel. And also, what are you thinking? And then on a deeper level, what is that inner sense telling you? Where is that guidance system leading you? And does it make you feel, burdened, heavy, or, does it feel like, you're just kind of like forcing something? Or does it feel like you're grasping something in panic? Or does it feel like there's just something about the situation that feels solid? Right? Natural. There will be turbulence and challenges either way. That's part of the gauntlet of the world. That's part of the toil of the burden of being a human being in a physical realm, in the physical manifestation. We have to break down our wheat to make bread, right? So that's just part of the rent of life. But it's how we meet those challenges and our mindset through them and our perception that changes how we navigate them, and the grace in which we experience that navigation and participate within that navigation. But also, when we can do that, we start to open ourselves to just more favor of the universe. The more solid our faith is, the more, pure our vessel of the self-emptying of those ego layers, the more like magnetism and power that we have. But our power is measured by our integrity, and if the universe can trust us with that, right? And if we're just going to waste it, or if we're going to do something with it. So our next card is Waves of Prosperity. New abundance and exciting opportunities wash over you now. So one of my cards for my own personal reading for the week was Goddess. And it made me think of just getting into that state of divine feminine energy. This card is a card of divine feminine energy. It's passive receptivity. It's not pushing. It's not a masculine, like, go, something's got to be done about it. This is about trust, relaxing, right? Letting your guard down and letting go of the illusion of control. And so when we do that, it demonstrates certainty and trust to the universe, which makes us very magnetic. And when we're telling the universe that we are in a state of receiving and trusting, that we are open and that we are malleable, it can bring, it opens up these windows of opportunity, these portals of light. Because we're in affinity with the light. And vibrationally speaking, if you want to align with something, you have to create affinity with it. So if you have trust and certainty and you're relaxed and you're not grasping to try to control, and you're not, you know, in a state of reactivity, in that sort of animal-minded human consciousness. We want to transcend that. You know, we want to have our common sense, but we want to also be a little bit above that and be able to have this like a little bit of a higher consciousness where we can really choose with our absolute free will and like on purpose with intention, rather than from a state of being reactive. Yes, new abundance and exciting opportunities wash over you now. Very exciting. Can't wait. Feeling it, naming it, claiming it, drawing it in. Alchemy. You have the Midas touch right now. Every project you begin turns to gold. So yeah, just get in that mindset, right? It's all about awakening that magic within. And then it doesn't matter where you are because you're spinning webs of magic. It doesn't matter where you go if you're spitting toxicity and cursing yourself and you're in a bad mood and you're in a downward spiral and you've fallen off your high-flying disc. You need to have those moments where you kind of purge all that through, but you don't want to hang on there. You want to allow it to wash over and pass, and you know that way you can return back. So you're turning that lead to gold. So for instance, when I get very anxious or stressed, which is really rarely anymore, it's pretty amazing. But when I do, I've just learned to take that angst and fuel it into inspiration and motivation. And I'll take it on a run. And I'll take it, you know, doing some errands, and I'll like, you know, get some things off my to-do list, and I will hunker down and focus into what's my grand plan, what's my grand scheme, you know, and what are the things that I need to be doing on a daily basis to get closer to that. And so it always makes me feel better when I take inspired action rather than stew and make panicked choices. So alchemy, yes, the more that we heal our subconscious patterning and start taking that ownership of that sovereignty of the higher self within, and using our divine inheritance of free will and really making, you know, informed and authentic choices that bring us the most fulfillment and joy, or, you know, maybe they give us long-term value or whatever, but, you know, it's about discernment. We have to build discernment. But the more we do that healing work, the more magnetic we become. And so the more, like, also desire. Desire is something that we have to keep stoked, but that is the magnetism that brings what we want to us. It's the thing that keeps us working toward what we want. And it's the thing that keeps the universe, that signal out there to the universe to draw it in. So when we get overly tired, when we get frantic and impatient or afraid, it really waters down our desire, because if we're in a fearful state or a state of despair, we're afraid to open ourselves up to our desire because it makes us feel vulnerable. And we're afraid that it's going to hurt us, that it's going to disappoint. So it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of vulnerability to open yourself up to that desire. But you have to keep it stoked in order for anything to happen, or else you're just going to be spinning your wheels, and you might be putting effort in, but you're not going to get a lot of like juice, a lot of gusto, a lot of return for your effort. Protection. You and your loved ones and your possessions are safe and protected by heaven. I feel like this came out last week and maybe some other time recently, but I think that is just more assurance that even though, you know, Saturn is being kind of stern with us right now, and however that's showing up for you, that sort of disciplinary, restrictive energy that makes us angsty and then gives us like the gusto to like go forward. But it can also make us pretty jittery and anxious, and it can threaten to, you know, it kind of puts us face to face with our futility and with our mortality, and, you know, with the brink of how, you know, we're poised on the precipice of anything at any moment. You know, everything is so fragile and fleeting, and, you know, and it's just like, you just have to accept it, right? and give it over to Source. Source is our protector, right? Source gives me my every breath. Source is in the sun. Source is in the yard, right? Source is in my garden. Source is in my heart. Source is in these cards. It's all around. So yeah, I am protected and divinely directed, and I am in that state of consciousness, and I feel that, and I emit that, and I am now in affinity with that vibration. But it's through my prayer practice. It's through calling in my angels, every day at the beginning of the day to be with me and to guide me and lead me and protect me and serve me and help me. And, I'm checking in throughout the day, praying out loud for, help and support. And then at the end of the night, I say prayers again. But even still, I have to remind myself that when I feel fear for the people that I love, or I feel that things are fleeting, or that anything could be, I've grown up with a sense that any minute the rug could be ripped out from under. I never had the kind of upbringing or childhood or even adolescence or even adulthood where anything was ever it felt very solid or stable for very long without a sudden change and most of the time drama with it. And so it's taken me a long time to let my guard down and to feel safe and settled and secure and not be looking over my shoulder. And the more that I settle into that trust and serenity, I think the more harmony I experience, honestly. And even when life brings crazy, chaotic challenges and really intense situations now, it's I don't know, I just can sort of get through it in a way that I wouldn't have been able to before. So I think that the more you pray, the more you practice, you do build up this protective armor that shields you from the impact of life. And what the challenge becomes then is staying open and vulnerable and heart-centered and heartful within that protection, and not closed off, not armored up in a hard way, like in a closed off way, but protected, healthily bound, with healthy boundaries, but you know how to let people in, to different layers, different levels, right? All right, y'all. Well, I hope you have a good rest of your day. We're doing it. I'm trying to do videos during the day now. See if I can switch up my schedule and make it even more efficient. So yeah, I hope this starts working out for us all. I'll talk to y'all later. Ciao.